I'm really happy that you're here, especially considering that we just had a break. And I know that we've got, busy couple of weeks coming up. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Just if you are joining us, today's presentation is an interactive presentation. It's a Pear Deck presentation. And what that means is you're going to actually need the link that Elisa has put into the chat. So if you haven't already, make sure that you click on the link that is in the chat and follow us along from that link. And that way you can then see the interactive components. And today is actually the last in the series, and reading, writing, and taking tests with power. And again, like Elisa said, my name is Erica or Erica. I go by both, so feel free to call me either Erica or Erica. And I have to take a brief minute here to thank a lot of people. I just want to say a big thank you to Elisa, a big thank you to Lily, for inviting me and letting me be part. I kind of went to Lily and I'm like, Lily, I want to help. I want to be a part of this. And Lily was really gracious and let me be a part of this. And a big thank you to Dr. Magdalena Barrera, who is actually the original creator of these slides, and who has been so generous and kind in letting us modify and adapt her slides for today's presentation. So a big thank you to her. And I know Elisa already sent out, there is a handout that was also created by Dr. Barrera that goes along with this presentation. And you'll notice it has several boxes on the handout. Now the handout is, you can either use it right now to write on it if that's helpful to you, or it's something that you can refer back to after the presentation is over. And one thing you'll notice, there is one box on the upper left-hand corner that is, oh, and thank you. And I see that Elisa already put it in the chat, is an upper left-hand corner. It talks about time management. Is not something we're covering today, but is something that's really, really important. And there's some tips in that box. Okay, so let's see. I hope I don't see that. Now I don't see everybody. Hopefully everyone has the link to the Pear Deck, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. And just to let you know what we're going to be doing today, we are actually going to start off very briefly with some introductions. I'll then go over the objectives, what it is that we're going to cover in today's session. And then we're going to get into the meat of today, which is talking about the power tips for reading, writing, and test taking. And then we'll end with a brief reflection and a wrap-up activities. Okay, and again, if there's any, please feel free to stop me at any particular point. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And Elisa is going to be kind of my eyes and my ears, and letting me know if there's any questions that come up in case if I don't see them in the chat. Okay, and in order to start off with introductions, what I'm going to have you do is you can either draw or write. I would love to know a little bit more about who's here. So if you can share with us your name, your hometown, pronouns. Oh, and I forgot to mention mine. Mine are she, hers, and hers. And major or possible major. I know some of us haven't decided, and that's okay. And what I'm going to do is in about 1.5 minutes, I'm going to then show everyone your responses. So make sure that you don't write anything that you don't want others to see, okay? Because I am going to scroll through our responses. But I would love to get to know each and every one of you a little bit more. And it should be interactive, so you should be able to write on here. Oh, yay, I see. And I only see 8 people signed on to it, but I think we have more, right? Elisa, we have more than 8 people, or we only have 8?
Right now we have 13 other folks, or 12 other folks. I see more folks just joined, so I will add the link again.
Yeah, so if you just joined us, thank you so much. If you just joined us, please make sure to click on the link that's in the chat box, and you need to follow along with the link that's in the chat box. Perfect. I'm seeing a little bit more, about 10 people. So make sure that if you're just joining us, make sure that you click on that link. And I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds.
Oh, they're good. Sorry, I have ugly handwriting.
Don't worry, we're not touching handwriting. And your names are not on the, oh, of course, you're going to write your name. but it's not like I'm going to say, oh, this is so-and-so's. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show responses, and let's see who is here today, who's joining us. Damaris, nice to meet you. Hello, good to see you. We have, I think that's Stacy from Richmond. We have Ariana from Sunnyvale. Oh, business marketing. We have Matt. I'm assuming it's kinesiology. We have Biseida from San Jose. We have Sabrina. Yes, and this is thank you. You can always type. You don't always have to draw. You can always type. Criminal justice studies. We have Eric Fajardo from Redwood, like justice studies as well. Anjali, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, please correct me. Public health. New liberal studies. I'm just gonna say, I recognize this name. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Elisa, Latino Studies, Brian, Santa Clara, Poli-Sci, Edward from San Jose, maybe switching into marketing. Thank you. It was so good to meet all of you. Thank you for sharing who's here. I am so happy to meet all of you, and hopefully, I don't see not many people's faces, but I would, if you get a chance, and if you're in a space where you can do so, I would love to see your beautiful faces. So thank you for sharing. So one of the things I wanted to just quickly go over are some of the objectives that we're going to be covering in today's session. So we're going to learn about a strategy for effective reading that you can use across all different sorts of readings. We're going to think about possible strategies for you to use when engaging in the writing process. And then we're going to consider a possible strategy for how to best prepare and take exams, since those are going to be coming up. And then if we have enough time at the end of the session, we're going to think about how can we implement some of these practices or strategies that we've learned about today in the remaining weeks of the semester. Okay, so just so you know, you're going to learn some strategies that you can use from the very beginning of the semester, but these are also strategies that you can use even now near the very end of the semester. Okay, and in terms of, just want to briefly kind of honor and recognize the space that we're in, especially in these last few weeks. And in terms of thinking about our college experiences, now again, not everyone has the same college experience, but there are some commonalities that hopefully you recognize, and that is in terms of pace, volume, and complexity. In terms of pace, you know, we all start off in you know, the beginning of the semester in what Dr. Barrera likes to call the honeymoon period, where things are kind of, you know, slow, they're not too fast. You're like, oh, this is nice, I like it. You have a homework assignment here, homework assignment there. And then as the semester picks up, oh my gosh, it gets faster and faster and faster, right? It just feels like, oh, there's so much piling on. And in terms of volume, it starts off as a little trickle. And then by the end of the semester, it's like, oh my gosh, I have this paper and that paper and this exam and that exam and this lab. It just feels almost overwhelming. And in terms of complexity, starts off like, okay, I think I got this. I think I'm understanding calculus. And then it gets more complex and more complex as the semester goes on. So right now, some of you may think, oh, this is not easy. And that's normal, okay? That is normal. That's part of the college experience, okay? And this is why it's really important for us to have really good study skills and really good skills in terms of our reading and our writing, okay? So having thought about that, what I'm gonna have us think about right now is I'm gonna have us think about we're gonna take a quick temperature check. And in this slide, what you're going to do is you're going to slide, you have a little dot, you'll notice you have a little dot, and I want you to think about where are you in terms of your stress level right now? Are you in a good space and you can focus and you're ready to take on the rest of the semester? Or are you like, you know, I am kind of getting a little bit bothered by all the assignments that I have coming on? Or are you like, wow, I'm really in a high temperature. Wow, I really am having a hard time focusing. I'm going to give you a few seconds to fill this out. We've got 7 responses. Oh, almost about 10 responses. So remember, if you're just joining us, please make sure to use that link that's in the chat so that we can all make sure that we interact. Oh, we've got all responses. Thank you. So let's see where we're at. Okay, are you ready? Where do you think you're going to be? Anybody want to say? Anybody think where we're going to be mostly?
Maybe in the middle?
Maybe in the middle. Okay, Stacy, I like your optimism. I hope so too. Let's see. Oh, okay. So we're kind of all over the place. We've got some people kind of in the green. We've got some people in the middle, Stacy. So you were spot on. And we do have some people that are definitely inching towards that red zone. Okay. So this is pretty normal, a normal spread. And in fact, I expected a lot of us to be a little bit more in this zone right here at this point. But I'm glad that we seem to be pretty, for the most part, we're doing okay, but we're inching a little to the red. Okay. We're inching a little bit to the red. And so what we're going to do right now is I want us to just take 30 seconds. And I have my notebook here. So if you have something to write on, or if you just want to think about it kind of in your head, I want you to think about what sort of reading strategies do you use for your classes? What sort of strategies do you use in regards to your own writing? And what sort of strategies do you have in regards to test prep? And just take about 30 seconds, maybe jot some of those down, or just think about them. Okay, so hopefully you were able to think of some strategies that you're using in each of those areas. And as we go through the presentation today, I really want us to draw from the knowledge that we bring to this presentation, because sometimes a lot of us think, wait a minute, that's why I'm here, is because I don't have strategies. I want to learn strategies, and I'm going to offer to you. Oh, hold on. You actually do. You're here at San Jose State, okay? You do have already amazing reading, writing, and test prep strategies. Could some of us see improvement? Absolutely. We can always improve in some of these areas, but just know that you already come with a great array of strategies. And I want to make sure that we honor those and that we bring those into our work. Okay. But we're going to first talk about is our reading strategies that we can use. Okay, let me go on to the next slide. And so thinking about our reading strategies, and if you look back at your notes in a little bit, I'm going to ask you to share with us some reading strategies that you've used in the past that have been successful for you. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to, again, let's do a little assessment in terms of where do you feel like you are in terms of your own reading strategies? Are you like, I'm awesome, I have great reading strategies? Do you feel like you're average? Some classes or some days I have good strategies, or are you kind of like, you know what, I need help. I want something that can help me. Feel free to drag it. Oh, sorry, you can, I know somebody said, oh, yes, somebody said they can hear my dog snore. I'm so sorry. Oh, he can be really loud. I'm going to move him out in just a second when we can move on to their next part. Okay, so let's see where we're at. I don't have all responses, so just make sure that you're participating. Let's see where we are. Oh, show responses. Okay, so we have a few that are in awesome. Most of us are an average, and some that, okay, you know what, I think I might need a little help. So this is a great place for us to think about that. So let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I would love to hear from some of you. It seems like we've got a lot of people that are in the awesome or in the average. What are some reading strategies that you currently use that you feel are really helpful? And I would love to hear people's thoughts or strategies, practices that you use.
I usually, oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, it's okay, you go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say is I usually start by skimming. I guess if I'm reading like an article,
Oh, sorry,
I'll
if you could speak
skim.
just a little louder. I heard skimming.
Yeah, skimming. So I just start by skimming the article once and then probably a few times till I start to understand like what the main points are. I'll try not to read it too detailed at first when I'm reading, and then I'll probably go back and then see after seeing what the main points are, I'll begin to like write afterwards. And also like looking up words I don't know. Like I'll usually split my screen, so I'll have like the article on one side and then maybe like dictionary.com or thesaurus.com like on the right side, so I can look up things that I'm unfamiliar with.
What a great strategy. Was that Anjali?
Yeah, Angeli, yeah.
Anjali, thank you, Anjali. Thank you for correcting me. Anjali, thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh, so Anjali was wonderful. So you're skimming the article several times at the beginning just to kind of get an idea of what the article's about, and before you go back and reread it for like the main points. And I love what you mentioned about having a double screen and maybe having the reading on one and maybe even dictionary.com or some other window open at the same time. And I just want to say that is an incredible strategy. So celebrate that. That is fantastic. And for those of us that are, looking for strategies, definitely use that. That's an amazing strategy. The skimming, okay, to kind of find out what's the gist, what is it about, then going back and reading a little bit deeply, and then maybe having double screens. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Anjali. Other thoughts or ideas that we can maybe add to our collective knowledge?
Sabrina added in the chat box,
Oh, yes.
using an audiobook while reading.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you, Sabrina, for mentioning that. That is a wonderful strategy. Not only listening, right? Listening to a reading and also looking at it at the same time. So you're getting both, auditory input and visual input. Fantastic. It's another great strategy that we can definitely use in reading. And if you haven't tried that, I would definitely recommend just to see. For some people, it's a little too much sensory overload, but for other people, it's really great. Other ideas?
I was late coming in, so I don't know if you already went through some stuff, but I was having trouble reading too. Like, I don't know if it's like OCD, but I keep reading the same paragraph because I want to make sure I understand it. And so I went online and I looked for some tips. And then one of them said maybe play a little bit of soft classical music in the background and then grab a piece of paper and put it under every line or above every line, like the line that you just read. So it forces you to go down instead of having to go back up. And
that's a great strategy. And that's one that I used to use a lot with my own students as well too, right? Yes, a great strategy. So you put up, have classical music playing in the background, having a piece of paper on top, and then making sure that you kind of bring it down so that you're forced to not go back up and reread something over and over, but it keeps you kind of flowing, going forward. Fantastic. And again, feel free to put any other ideas. We're going to take one more, but feel free to, as the presentation goes today, feel free to add some of these great, amazing ideas, because it's great for our collective knowledge to keep adding. One more, we'll take one more.
So what I do is I usually skim through it as well, and I highlight like words that I'm not familiar with, and then I read it one more time, and that is when before I read it again, I write down like definitions of all the words that I highlighted, and then on the second time I analyze every paragraph, and then I just break it down and like see, okay, reflect like what this is trying to tell me. So then
Fantastic. So again, Stacy, thank you for sharing. So reading it multiple times, which is a huge, very, very important part of close reading, is reading it multiple times. And then, Stacy, you were mentioning highlighting words, right? Highlighting words that are a little bit maybe unfamiliar to you, and then going back and chunking the reading. And you didn't say the word chunking, but that's a strategy, right? You chunk it into specific paragraphs, and that's fantastic. Okay, so thank you all for sharing that. You all see all these amazing ideas you come with. You all come with amazing ideas. So I love what you have shared, and continue to share them. in the chat as well. And so just a couple of things, little quick tips that I want to share with you. And some of these may be like, okay, yeah, I already know that, Erika. But sometimes it's one of those commonsensical reminders that sometimes we just need to hear, okay? So in terms of reading, really important to give yourself enough time to read, okay? Remember, a lot of us take 3-unit classes. And so for the amount of time that you're supposed to read for every 1 unit of class is 3 hours. So many of us, for example, take 3-unit classes. That's approximately 3 times 3, that's approximately 9 hours of reading spent for that class. Of course, as you subtract the class time, that's outside of class, that's about 6 hours of reading that you need to set aside or dedicate to that particular class. So when you're mapping out or thinking about your schedule for the week, make sure that for every class that you have that you've set aside every week, try to see if you can set between 4 to 6 hours. Again, it's an average, right? Some weeks are going to be a little bit heavier than others, but see if you can start blocking those times out. And location. Okay, we mentioned that it's really important to be in a place like right now, this is not the best place. You can hear my dog snoring, right? This would probably be quite a distraction if I were to try to read. So I would probably need to either kick my dog out or go somewhere else. Putting on classical music, thinking of that location where it is that you can actually concentrate, okay? And being realistic. Please, this is one thing that if I can give to you, it's called the Pomodoro technique. Okay, if I can give you something, let it be this. And this is a strategy that you can use across all different levels, areas, and it's something that helped me get through my dissertation, right? It's you always work in 25-minute chunks. You never work longer than a 25-minute chunk. So that means it's called the Pomodoro technique because you usually set like a timer and it's usually in the shape of like a little tomato in your kitchen. So you set it for 25 minutes and all you do for 25 minutes is whatever your task is. So whether it's reading a chapter, whether it's writing the introduction to your paper, whether it's writing the conclusion, that's all you are doing for 25 minutes. You're not going to the bathroom, you're not checking your messages. In fact, I block all that off my phone. And then the last 5 minutes of the 30 minutes, right? You have 25 minutes of working. And then you have 5 minutes where that's where you can go to the bathroom, get a drink of water. That's where you stand up, but you work in 25-minute chunks. And once the 5-minute break is over, okay, let's go back, 25 more minutes. So try not to say, oh, okay, I have 6 hours or 4 to 6 hours I need to set a time. No. You are not going to sit down and just work for 4 hours straight. Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Cognitive science would say, don't do that. That's your brain on overload. 25 minutes, 5-minute break. 25 minutes, 5-minute break. 25 minutes, 5-minute break. 25 minutes, 5-minute break. If you do 4 of those, if you do 4 Pomodoros, so 25 break, 25 break, 25 break, 25 break, then you need to give yourself a 30-minute break, okay? And believe me, that's how I got through the dissertation. 400 pages is the only way I could have gotten through it, okay? So Pomodoro technique. And again, always reviewing your reading, reviewing the syllabus, reviewing your notes, okay? And in terms of the reading, I just want to share one particular strategy that I used to always teach, and this is a strategy that I've taught not only my elementary school students, but I also teach this to my university students because it is a really powerful strategy. And it's a strategy that all of you have mentioned several components of this strategy, okay? It does have a pretty formal name, right? It's the SQ3R, okay? And this is just an acronym to help you remember what it stands for, okay? The S stands for survey. This is probably one of the most critical and crucial steps, okay? And before I go into the steps, does anybody have any idea of how much you actually remember or retain of a text after you've read it once?
None. I'm guessing.
None? Okay. Yeah, it could be none, depending if it's above our level, sometimes it might be none. So immediately after you read something, you can usually retain about 75 to 80%, and that's immediately after you read it. However, if you wait one day and then you review it, guess how much you remember? If you, one day later, if I were to ask you, hey, what was that article about? If you wait one day, guess how much you'll remember then? Anybody want to take a guess? How much of that reading do you think you remember a day after you've read it? Somebody's like, no, I don't know. 15%, 1-5, only 15%. This is why having reading strategies is so, so important, okay? Because in order for a reading to get into your long-term brain memory, it takes about 3 months of reviewing. If not, it's immediately gonna go, okay? So it's really, really important to have good reading strategies. So the first part of this, of the SQ3R is to survey, pre-read the chapter. How is it organized? Look at the titles, look at the subtitles, look at the graphs, look at the images, go through the entire thing to kind of get an idea, what is this chapter about, okay? Then the second step is formulate questions, okay? Formulate questions. Take all those titles that you see and convert them into questions, okay? Convert those into questions so that you already have, as part of your notes, these are the questions that I'm going to answer as I read this article. And I'm going to model this in just a second. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to read. And as you're reading, you're going to go back and answer those questions with what you read. You're going to go back, okay? And then the next 2 steps, remember the last is RRR. You're reading, you're reciting. So remember, I think, Stacy, I think this was you, you said after a paragraph, you kind of try to stop and recite or remember what you read. That's exactly what you do, okay? As you're reading, not only are you writing down, right? But you also recite or tell yourself, okay, this paragraph that I just read was about this, okay? And then the last thing you do is you review, and you need to review your notes as often as possible, okay? Remember, it takes about 3 months for it to get in your long-term brain. So if you really want to remember something, you have to review it every day. Now, I know that is really, sometimes it's like, Erica, that's not legit. Like, it's not gonna, I can't review my notes every day. I get that. I'm not saying you have to review them every day, but you might want to get in the habit of looking through your notes at least once a week. Okay, so that it doesn't so you don't, keep forgetting. So this reading strategy, SQ3Rs, okay? So surveying, questioning, then reading, reciting it out loud, and then reviewing it. So I'm going to show you just really quickly, I'm going to model what this could look like for you, okay? And you should all be able to see my screen, but I'm just going to show you real quick an article that for example, that I assigned a couple of weeks ago to my students. And I did this with my students to kind of help them. What I would do is I'm first going to do the first step, okay, which is surveying. So I'm going to survey the entire article to kind of see what it's about. So I'm looking at it, I'm seeing, okay, contemplating the invisibility of disability. I'm seeing an image, there's a lot of TVs here, and then it talks a quote, it's talking about disability and society. Okay, so it seems like this article, maybe this chapter is going to talk about something about disability and how it relates to our society. And then here, my next quote, one of the headings is assumptions versus realities of life for people with disabilities. Okay, so it seems like I'm going to be studying a little bit about what assumptions we make about people with disabilities and what are the realities. It seems like there's a discrepancy there. And then if I'm looking here, okay, it looks like we're going to be learning about misconceptions about people with disabilities. And then it looks like there's a lot of documentaries, books, films into how maybe disabilities are portrayed. I'm not sure. And then, then it looks like I'm going to learn a little bit about the history of disability in public schools. So then it looks like that's what I'm going to read. So you would survey the whole chapter, okay? Once you're done surveying the whole chapter, does anybody remember what the second step is? Survey, then you?
Question.
So I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn my headings into questions so that I make sure that as I'm reading, I can answer them. So I've done an example for you. Where did I put it? If I go here, these are my notes. My first header, if I go back to my if I go back to my article, my first Header is assumptions versus realities of life for people with disabilities. So I'm going to turn that into a question. So what did I do? I turned that into, what is the relationship? Oh, sorry, my first one was actually this one. I must have skipped it. My first one was actually disability in society. So I turned it into a question. What is the relationship between disability and society? So that as I'm reading it, then I'm going to start writing my notes here. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. I'm going to write my notes here. Then I'm going to go back. And then what's my second question? My second question that I'm going to create, if I look back at the article, I'm going to look at my next header. Okay, assumptions versus realities of life for people with disabilities. Does anybody want to help me turn that into a question? How would I turn that into a question so I have that as a header for one of my reading notes? I know it's late. Anybody want to help me with this one?
Would it be, what are some assumptions and realities of life for people with disabilities?
Fantastic. Thank you. I think that I can't see the screen, but I think it was Anjali.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, awesome. So thank you. So so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So what I would write is in my notes, okay, what are some of the assumptions versus realities of people with disabilities, right? So I'm going to do that for the entire paper. And you might think, oh my gosh, Erica, this is so long. Yeah, it does take a little bit long, but it really, really helps, okay? And if we do this for each reading, can you imagine the notes that we're gonna have when it comes time for an exam? We're gonna have amazing notes that we can easily study for our exams. And then I think, oh my gosh, Anjali, were you also the one who told me about the double screen? Okay, I think you mentioned the double screen. So I could open up my reading and then have my notes on the same page as well. So then I can read and then just type the notes at the same time, which will help to speed it up. Does anybody have any questions about this reading strategy that I just presented? Oh. Anybody questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. Okay, feel free to put them in the chat. So hopefully people are gonna remember that SQ, survey, question, and the 3 R's, okay? 3 R's, reading, reciting, reviewing, going back, reciting this section, this section, this section, and then reviewing it as much as possible. And then in terms of our next strategy, I want us to think about, oh, before that, yeah, stretch break, take a quick stretch break, quick stretch break. So important that we're stretching, hence after 25 minutes, make sure that you get up, walk around. I always make sure that my students, I always give them stretch breaks. I'm like, okay, get up, move, 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 especially when we're like Zoom fatigue, right? We need to make sure we stretch. Okay, get all those wiggles out. So in terms of thinking about our writing strategies, when it comes time for you to write a paper, I want us to think, you wrote some down at the beginning of our session. What are some writing strategies that you find helpful to you? I would love to kind of, again, cull some of our knowledge together and have kind of a list that we can draw from. Anybody want to share?
I know that for me, earlier, a few weeks ago, I had a research paper that was like 8 or 10 pages long. And so I decided to break it down. So like every other day I would write like a single paragraph. So like it wouldn't feel as heavy of work if I just did it all in like one day or something.
Ariana, thank you. That is a great strategy. So you broke it down. Fantastic. You didn't do it the night before. You broke it down several days and you wrote a paragraph at a time. Fantastic. That is a great strategy. Oh my gosh. If we could all have that strategy, we'd be great writers, right? Thank you. That's a great strategy. Continue to do that. That is wonderful. Other strategies that we bring to the table.
You can use like grammar checkers, like when you're done writing it, just to see if you're actually writing it correctly, or even getting it checked by like a by a tutor maybe at like the writing center. I know the virtual ones, they have virtual appointments now, and I don't know, I've been to a few and they're like really, really helpful
Yeah.
for just checking. Yeah.
So I mean, technically the Writing Center doesn't do editing, Anjali, but I thank you for bringing that up. First of all, the Writing Center is a fantastic resource. Please use the Writing Center. They are amazing tutors there that you can take your paper with and be like, you know what? I'm really struggling with how to, come up with a clear thesis, or I'm really struggling with how to come up with a clever, concise introduction. Can you help me with that? They are so helpful. They won't sit there and proofread a paper, but they can help you with certain parts. And thank you for saying that. Yes, absolutely. That is a fantastic resource. And also you mentioned some apps like Grammarly. Those are also great apps, and having somebody else read it. Yes. Oh my gosh, these are all things that I'm going to tell you already that you already know. See, they're so amazing. Okay, what else? Other things. What are some other things?
Sabrina added in the chat box,
Oh,
write ideas on paper before typing.
Yes, that's another great idea. Writing things down on paper. In fact, I was going to show you my own writer's notebook, which is a mess. And this is what I do. You'll see this was from June 13th, 2017. It was a while back. But I always write everything down on paper before I transfer it onto the computer. Great idea. Other strategies. And I'm sorry, that's my daughter. She's kind of screaming in the background. Any other things?
Matthew wrote, write an outline and set aside time to do research beforehand.
Fantastic. Yes, you're all mentioning great things. Writing a outline is fantastic. Okay, you can definitely use an outline to kind of help you structure your paper, and that way, and then making sure you do the research beforehand. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to share with you, and please feel free to keep putting them. So I want us to think about, how are we feeling about our writing strategies right now? So drag your little dot. Where do you feel like you would be? Okay, so, oh, I only have one response. Oh, there we go. Okay, we've got 4 responses. Where would you put yourself? 5 responses. We could get some few more responses. We only have about half. So let's see where we're feeling in terms of our responses. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. How do you feel about your writing strategies? Most of you, 8 people responded, and you're feeling really good. That is fantastic news. I'm glad that you're feeling really good about your writing strategies. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to share then, since you're already feeling so good about it, I'm going to quickly go over some of these. Okay, so just something to think about is that writing is really the most important tool for your academic success. Okay, but I just want to remind us, it is not something that you're born with. It is something that is learned, and I really want you to remember that. Please don't ever think, I'm just not a good writer. No, that is absolutely not true. Okay, we need to have a growth mindset, which is something I know was talked about before in the ARS. Writing is something that you learn. The more practice, the better. So never, never forget that. Oh, I just need to do more writing. Okay, we all have our anxieties, insecurities, doubts. That is completely normal. Okay, and remember that writing is a process. It's going to take a while. You have to go through a first draft. You need to revise it, polish it. Okay, and in terms of some tips that I want to share with you is, remember, like you all mentioned, you need to give yourself time for the process. Sometimes it takes us a while to get past that blank screen. And this is when I have the little Pomodoro timer with a 25 on it, because write in chunks, 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, 25 minutes, 5-minute break, and give yourself small tasks. In these 25 minutes, I'm just going to focus on my introductory paragraph. Don't think I'm going to write a whole page. No. I'm just working on the introduction. And like Ariana mentioned, paragraph by paragraph, that's how you get it done. Like I think like one of our other amazing participants mentioned, read it out loud. That way you can hear your mistakes. It's so important. When you read it out loud, you will notice any mistakes that you may have. Ask someone to read it for you, okay? And always, it's really helpful when you're asking somebody to read it, ask them with a specific question in mind, okay? So is my thesis clear, or do I prove my point? And again, also that was mentioned earlier, is there's amazing writing tools out there. If you don't know about Purdue's online writing lab, I would highly encourage you to check it out. They have really, really good modules to help you with your writing. And Grammarly, yes, sometimes Grammarly, they can charge you money, which is a little frustrating sometimes, but that's another tool that you have at your disposal, okay? And in terms of our last part of our session today, could take a quick stretch break. We're almost there. You're almost there. This is our last section. You're doing fantastic. I'm just going to open the door for my dog. Okay. Let's see. And we are going to thinking about our test taking strategies. Okay. And I'm going to again offer you one. Before we get to that, does anybody want to share some test taking strategies that have worked for them in the past in terms of preparing for an exam?
Wait, did you say preparing or during the test?
Sorry, because I'm showing you the wrong side. But in order to prepare for the test, what sort of strategies do you tend to use? What do people do to prepare for a test?
Sabrina added in the chat box, check for study guides.
Awesome. Look always for study guides, making sure that you draw from those. Fantastic. What are some other things that people might do?
For me, oh, go ahead.
I would sometimes during class, you write down notes and keywords that the teacher kind of emphasized or she tended to point at a little bit more. So those are the ones I kind of write down. So those are the ones I kind of review because it's kind of like a little hint that it might be on the exam.
That's awesome. Yes, paying close attention to, hey, my professor's spending a lot of time on this. I'm going to make sure that I review this or study this. Fantastic. Yes. And I see that you wrote group study. Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Studying with a group is a great resource, right? Great resource. And look, in Grace, you mentioned the notes, right? Your notes. Amazing. Anything else?
Stacy added, I go back to the lessons and see which materials I am having difficulties with. Then I look for practice problems on that specific topic or even watch videos.
Stacy, thank you for sharing that. That's another great strategy, right? Looking for practice problems online, there's so many videos out there online that can definitely help us if we're having a question. And also always go to your professors too during your offices. I know I love it when students come to me like, hey, I'm not sure about something. Thank you for coming to me. I love sitting down and that's what we're here for, to help students. So making sure that you also go to your professor's office hours. And please keep putting some in there, but test taking is really anxiety driven. In fact, I actually have to make a confession. I actually don't, I don't have any tests in my classes because I don't believe in them philosophically. But however, I do know that it is a reality for a lot of classes. Okay. And I'm not a very good test taker. I'm like kind of SpongeBob. Like I sit there, so nervous. And then the last 5 minutes, I'm like, 5 minutes left. And then I'm just, trying to get everything that I've done. Not the best test taking strategy. Okay. But there's a lot of things that we can do to prepare ourselves to be, to better prepare ourselves for tests. And this is what I'm going to show you. Oh, actually, let's see how we feel about our test taking strategies. So kind of drag your dot. Where are you on this? Are you feeling really good? Are you kind of in the middle? Or are you like, oh, I'm not feeling good about my test preparation strategies or skills? See, we've got 9 people. Okay, let's show our responses. Okay, we've got some that are no, and some that are kind of in the middle. Oh, nobody that feels really good. Okay. I'm going to share with you one possible strategy right now. Okay. And this is called the 5-day prep. Okay. The 5-day prep. And so what you're going to do is from your exam, whenever that exam date is you're going to block out 5 days before on your calendar. And you are going to do something each of those 5 days before the exam to prepare. And you're only going to do one specific thing each of those 5 days. And it's all about cognitive science, right? You don't want to overload the brain the night before. That's not the best strategy. So you chunk it, you break it down into pieces, and you do it 5 days before. So if you're looking right now in the future for your final exams, it would be really helpful if you can plot out on your calendar what days are your final exams, and try to do 5 days before each exam, and try to do each of these things that I'm going to talk about right now. Okay. On 5 days before the exam, what you are going to do is you are going to organize all of your notes. So what that means is, if you have, similar to what we had, for example, if I have my this document, my Valle and Connor notes that I showed you earlier, I'm going to get all my notes from all my readings that I've done. I'm going to, put them all together or make copies of them and print them all out so that I have all of my notes organized. And that takes a while. That actually can take, sometimes it takes the longest, right? To organize all your notes together. Okay. And order them sometimes in order of importance. Sometimes what I do is, once I print them all out, that's what I do. I just print them all out and I put sticky tabs on the ones that I think are really, really important. Like, oh man, this was a hard topic. Or like one of our friends mentioned, this is something that my professor's been really kind of, I think Grace, you mentioned this. This is what my professor's like being alluding to. I'm going to make sure that I cover this. Sometimes I would put Post-its. Okay. 4 days before, that's when you do the reviewing and the recalling. Okay. That's when you go over your notes and maybe you cover it with your hand and you're like, okay, mitosis. I mean, I don't know. I'm just coming up with topics. Mitosis. Okay. What is this? What is this? What does this mean? This means that this happens with the cells. This happens with that, right? Covering. This is when you do review and recall. And you know what? It really helps when you talk out loud. So sometimes go to a quiet space if you can. Sometimes I've done it in like my bathroom when I'm like surrounded by all my roommates. And then I'm like, okay, this is the important stuff that I need to know about this topic. Now I'm thinking about this element. I'm going to cover it, review it, tell yourself out loud. Okay, that's what you're going to do 4 days before. 3 days before, this is when you rewrite. This is your rewriting day. This is when you rewrite all of that really important information. So get out your notebook, turn to a blank new page. And this is when you write, okay, what's my topic? If your topic is on disability, what do I know about disability? What are all the important concepts about disability that I need to know? Okay. Review, rewrite all that important information. And also, that's really, again, when you're doing it, you try to talk out loud. Okay, talk out loud. It's really, really, really effective when you can talk out loud and you can retell information in your own words. Okay, so 5 days before, on the 5th day before, you're going to organize, get them all together. On the 4th, you're going to review and recall. You're just reviewing, covering it, recalling. Sometimes people use flashcards. That can be helpful too, right? 3 days before, rewrite it all. Write it, get either, if it's a poster board, if you're at a library and you have access to a whiteboard, for example, use a whiteboard. Rewrite all of your notes. Okay. 2 days before the exam, prepare a list of questions. Ask yourself questions. Okay, so what do I know about this? What do I know about the War of 1812? Okay, and then this is what I know about the War of 1812. Or what do I know about, criminal justice and this particular theory? Okay, that's when you're questioning yourself. You give yourself questions to answer. Look at study guides. See if you can answer the questions in the study guides. Okay, and on the day before the exam, that's when you spend some time just, calmly preparing by reviewing your notes, your rewritten notes a few hours before the exam. And remember that it is important to do a little bit of relaxation. So the day of the exam, try not to cram. Don't be doing any cramming. Oh my gosh, my exam is at 12 noon. It's 9 o'clock right now. I've got 3 hours to prepare. Cognitive science would say that's probably not necessarily the best way to use your time. Sure, if you want to do a quick review, that's fine, but maybe spend some time just going out for a walk, breathing deeply, right? Trying to do something else that gets you a little distracted. If you are calmer, you're going to have better results. Okay, we're going to have better results. Let's see. Oh, rewriting. Lily, rewriting is so helpful. Yes. It also helps with photographic memory. Absolutely. Okay. Yes, if you rewrite something and sometimes people rewrite some things in different colors, right? That can be really helpful. And I'm like, oh, yes, this is in yellow, this is in red. Okay. So this is a 5-day test prep. Find the day of your exam, plan out 5 days before on, right, day 5. Here, let's go back and review that again. Oh, sorry. On day, oh, no, wrong thing. Oh, my apologies. Okay, let me just move this over. So on day 5, remember you're organizing, you're just organizing. 4 days before, you're reviewing and recalling. 3 days before, that's when you do all the rewriting. Rewrite, what is it that you know? Okay, what are the concepts? Rewrite it all. Okay, different colors can be helpful. Prepare a list of questions 2 days before. And the day before, that's when you do your prep. Okay, just reviewing all the notes and the rewritten notes that you've gone over. Okay, and remember the day of the exam, you're just taking a deep, deep breath. Okay, are there any questions about this particular test taking strategy? You may think, oh my gosh, 5 days before the exam? That's too much. And the reason why is because, right, it helps you break things down into smaller pieces, right? And that way it prevents the big kind of brain dump that you have to kind of do the day before and the cramming, which is not helpful. Okay. And again, one thing I do want us to recognize is that we really need to be realistic and we need to be kind to ourselves. Okay. Sometimes, a lot of the times we get racked with guilt, like, oh my gosh, I should have been a better student. I should have been doing this all along. You know what? Let that go. You are here. You are here now. Do not worry about all the things you should have. Be kind to yourself, be loving to yourself. Okay. Remember, your habits are not going to improve overnight. It takes constant practice to kind of get better. And so maybe try it out for one exam this semester. See the 5-day test prep, see if that helps you. Okay. And in terms of one thing that you can do is remember, right? We have so many things going on as students, right? We have our personal lives, we have our academic lives, we have our work lives. There's a lot of things that we have juggling at once. And so one of the things that we really need to do is remember that we need to stay focused and get rid of our any sort of distractions. So maybe, before an exam, put away the TikTok, put away, the Instagram. Really be present in your classes during those study sessions and making sure that you're focused. And so remember this, here, this, now. Okay. And sometimes I even tell myself this, I'm here. Okay. I'm here. I'm in my room and I'm studying. This is what I'm doing. I am actually going to study for my chem final. Okay. And I'm going to do this now and for the next 25 minutes. And then I'm going to take a break. Really put the phone away, put the computer away, unless if you're using it to study. And really, okay, I'm here, this, and I'm going to do this now. Okay. And that can really, really help you. And we don't have enough time to get into breakout rooms, and I apologize for that. But so what I want us to think about is we have a few more minutes left, and I just want us to take a minute to reflect, and maybe you do it in your head, or maybe you do it on a piece of paper. I really want you to think about, okay, so what are 2 to 3 things that I can commit to doing during the remainder of this semester? We only have 3 more weeks, and I'm not, so this doesn't mean you're gonna all of a sudden change your reading strategies, or all of a sudden change your writing strategies, or maybe all of a sudden try this test prep for all of your exams. But maybe think about, what are some things that you can commit to? What are 2 to 3 things that you think you can commit to? And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes, and then we're going to share out loud.
Erica, we do have a few questions that came in. The first one is, can you spell out the name of the technique that you mentioned earlier?
Absolutely. It's called the Pomodoro technique. Oh my gosh, there's been books written about it. It really revolutionized my life. It's called the Pomodoro technique. Okay, and it's simply called the Pomodoro because it's usually the timer looks like a tomato, so that's why it's called. And what if the professor doesn't tell you what the exam is about? Like if it's just a review. So things, well, a couple of things. If a professor doesn't tell you, I would encourage you to maybe reach out to the professor. You can email the professor, go to office hours. And remember, the professors are there to help you. So I would encourage you to reach out and be like, I just want to, for my own clarity, as I'm preparing for this, is the exam, is it on everything that we covered from the midterm to now? Or is it everything that we covered since the beginning of this the semester? There's nothing wrong with asking for clarification from a professor, okay? I would definitely ask a professor for clarification. If you don't get any response back, usually it's either one of two things. It's from the midterm on, from the midterm to now, or sometimes from the beginning. And also another great place to look is to the syllabus. Look at the syllabus, making sure, see if the information is on there about what's going to be covered on the, and also reach out to other people in the class too. Hey, does anybody know what the question is, or what are the questions going to be about, if it's beginning or end of semester stuff? Any other questions that come up? Okay, before I just want to make sure that we're going to come back and share things that you're going to commit to. But before we do that, I just want to let you know, you can always come to me. In fact, I have open office hours tomorrow morning from 9 to 10. Here's my email address. Feel free to contact me. You can also book an appointment with me if you want a specific time to meet. This is the link, and it takes you to a page, and I'll put this in the chat too. And if anybody's interested by chance in teacher prep, I am the coordinator of that program, so I'm happy to answer any questions related to that. But okay, so I just wanted to make sure that we covered that. But what are some things that you would like to share in the last 2 minutes that we have? Anybody, are there some things that you're going to commit to for the last remainder couple of weeks? Nobody has anything they want to commit to? Really paying attention to what I read? Yeah, thank you. And one of the things I think I'm going to commit to is I need to go back to really to writing things by hand. I think I get stuck a lot with my own writing, and I look at the blank page and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have nothing written. And sometimes when you're writing by hand, start writing what you know. And for example, this is my first sentence. Okay, so this is what I'm currently thinking about right now. That's how I started my first sentence. And then I just kind of free wrote my way into kind of knowing. Sometimes you have to write your way into knowing, right? So that's what I'm committed to. Oh, Anjali is planning out my study schedule, working for 25-minute chunks and then taking a 15-minute break to avoid information overload. Yes. And just to give you an idea, the Tomoro technique is technically 25 minutes, 5-minute break, right? And then you work up to it. You do that 4 times. And then you take a 30-minute break, okay? And then you take a 30-minute break. And then if you need to go back, you can do the cycle again. And they say after 2 cycles, you definitely need to take an hour break. If you've done 8 of those, you need to take an hour break. Anyways, all that information is online. We've got less than a minute left. Anybody else have anything they want to share in terms of next steps? Okay. I just wanted to say thank you all for coming. It is 5:30. I hope you got something out of the presentation. And I think there's going to be a survey, Elisa, after this.
Yes. So after, I will be sending out an email to everybody who has attended today's event, and I will be sharing a survey with you all, as well as Dr.Erica Colmenares did share her information if you want to contact Professor Colmenares and reach out to her and maybe continue discussing these strategies that you learned about today. She's available to me as well.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Colmenares, for leading today's workshop. We appreciate you very much.
Oh, I appreciate you all very much. Good luck. You can do this. You've got this. Remember, you've got this. That's the most important thing. You will get through this. You've got this. That's the most important thing for you to remember.